Surrey, BC pre-sales are in huge trouble. You see, back in 2021, the real estate market was absolutely booming. Call it the COVID rebound, but you could do no wrong in real estate. You had high demand, ultra low mortgage rates, and escalating prices, a perfect environment to buy a home at the time. But then all of a sudden one day, boom. March 2022 marked the first of 10 consecutive rate hikes by the Bank of Canada, moving the overnight interest rate from 0.25% up to 5%, absolutely decimating the real estate market all across Canada. Now, buyers never thought this was going to happen. And one of the biggest problems with pre-construction, most specifically pre-construction condominiums, is there were people buying these things that never should have been buying them in the first place. If they were lucky enough to qualify at the prevailing interest rate at the time of when they wrote the offer, for as many that potentially could, there was even more that would never have been able to qualify, regardless of whether the rates were low or they were sitting at today's current rate environment levels. Not only that, but they completely underestimated the fees that are involved in selling pre-construction, as well as all of the hurdles that are involved with doing so. I got a phone call from someone looking to sell one of their investment condominiums just the other day. Now, we did not help this person get into these because we would never put anybody into pre-construction if they weren't fully prepared and knew the whole story. These people didn't buy just one unit at the time. They didn't buy just 2 units at the time, but they bought 3 pre-construction units when the market was at its absolute peak. Now, we could have saved this buyer from making a huge mistake, and they are in a very difficult situation because those properties are all now starting to come close to closing time. Give me the next 10 minutes of your time. I'm going to show you what happened, what could have been done to avoid it, and how to make sure you protect yourself so you do not ever end up in the same position as this person. You're going to want to make sure you hang around to the end as well, because I'm going to show you how to get your hands on over $350 worth of value for absolutely free for a very limited time. So that sounds good. Let's get into it. Hey, it's Darren here. If you're thinking of moving to Surrey, White Rock, or any of the surrounding suburbs, subscribe below so you can be the first to learn about the market and the areas. And like so many others, we've helped in the process of buying or selling a home. If you need help in the process, whether it's today or 6 months from now, use the link in the description to book a time to speak with me. We'll help you make sure that your move is the absolute best that it could ever be. So it's really important to have a little bit of context and kind of get you the full story behind how we got to today's problem, which is pre-construction being bought as an investment and absolutely tanking in value when someone goes to try and sell it. So jumping into a time machine back into 2020, 2021, where real estate prices were taking off like an absolute rocket ship. To give you an idea of how quickly prices were escalating pre-COVID, which is kind of right before the market really took off, you could buy a condominium in the city of Surrey at a benchmark value of around $382,000. Fast forward 2 years to the March 2022 peak of pricing for the same type of property, and they were up over $200,000 in just 24 months. That is an absolute insane increase. That's roughly 52% of an increase in just 2 years. Not only that, but interest rates and lending rates were absolutely dirt cheap at the time. The Bank of Canada introduced emergency level interest rates because of what was happening with COVID in the Canadian economy. Everybody was scared. Nobody knew what was going to happen. The overnight lending rate in Canada went down to just 0.25% to encourage people to get out and to buy homes, which would therefore add more money back into the economy. There was points during the pandemic where the variable rate to borrow money to buy a home was under 1%. This had everybody and their dog buying real estate. Everybody wanted to get their hands in on the action and try and make big bucks in the world of buying pre-sale, pre-construction properties and flipping them to make massive, massive profits. There was lines of people outside of the sales center. There was people working their contact databases to try and just get an in to schedule an appointment to buy some of these properties. It was all about who you knew just to get a shot to even get one. And the worst part was that developers at the time were getting away with absolute highway robbery, selling basic nothing, no frills units to the public, and putting stipulations in the contract that were highly advantageous to the developer, but not so much for the purchaser. More on that later. And just like the person that called me on the phone, a lot of these people were not even qualified to buy these or be able to afford them in the first place, but they were also buying 1, 2, 3, or more units at a time because all they could see was dollar signs in their eyes. Then something changed. In March 2022 was the first of 10 consecutive rate hikes by the Bank of Canada, which completely, as I mentioned earlier, decimated the real estate market, not only in Surrey, not only in British Columbia, but all the way across Canada. Perhaps a little late to the party, but that's for another debate. In less than 1 year, we saw the variable rate mortgages go from under 1% to over 5%. Think about how impactful that is, not only for someone who might be consider buying a home, but even somebody that maybe owned a home and had a variable rate mortgage at the time. Their mortgage rates almost quintupled in 1 year. Well, and as you would expect, the market responded. Surrey condominiums, as an example, from peak to trial in only 8 months, lost over $80,000 in value on average. Across the Fraser Valley for all property types, on average, they were down roughly about 7%, which is big dollars in real estate. Escalating the problem even further, well, pre-construction doesn't complete right away. You don't have to pay for it immediately. You kind of agree what you're going to buy it for, and oftentimes, especially with big concrete high-rises as an example, they might not be ready for occupancy or for someone to move into, thus meaning you have to actually pay for them for anywhere between 3 to 5 years. So as these prices were dropping, a lot of these would-be investors who bought some of these homes at the absolute peak figured that they would just ride it out. They would go through the next couple of years to see what might happen with those values. But riding it out hasn't, as of so far anyway, really paid off. We've seen some improvements since the trial of the market, there's no doubt, but there is also no doubt that we are not anywhere near the levels of value for real estate that we were at the peak of March 2022. Additionally, mortgage rates are still historically pretty high, at least in the last 20 years of history, compared to where they were at the peak of COVID. As you may know, the Bank of Canada did a rate cut in the month of June 2024, and hopefully there's going to be more on the way, but we'll have to wait and see for that. So this all fast forwards us to today, and Surrey condominiums are still about 5.5% less in value than they were at the peak of the market. This means for a lot of people that bought those pre-sale construction properties that are just starting to become due to complete on and move into, meaning get your mortgage and pay for, well, the property values they bought them for versus what they're worth today aren't even close. And don't forget, many of these people bought these units never anticipating the fact that they might have to close on them or move into them, and they probably weren't even financially qualified in the first place. So naturally, the thought is they want to sell them, but really, to sell them, you're going to have to sell them at a loss because a buyer is going to want to pay market value as of today, not what you paid 2 or 3 years ago. But it's not quite that simple, and that's where the challenge comes in, because there is a lot of fees tied into selling an assignment property and a lot of hurdles that those buyers who are turning into sellers now have to overcome. You've got to consider things like developer assignment fees. Some of the fees that these buyers needed to consider was things like the developer's assignment fee, where the particular one I looked at just this week had a developer's assignment fee of 5% of the purchase price. That means the developer just takes 5% right off the top, and that's regardless if there's profit or no profit. Naturally, there's also real estate fees. If you're going to hire professional help to help you sell the property, you need to pay for it. There's other minor fees in there as well, but the other one that you might not have thought about is you also have to convince the buyer who's buying this particular property off of you, or our seller in this example, they also have to take on the GST element of that property when it closes. This adds yet another additional 5% to the overall cost for them, which they may or may not want to take on because they could just go buy something that's already been completed on and not have to pay that GST. Time for a little math. I don't want to confuse you too much, but it's important to get this out. Let's say in a fictitious example, somebody bought a 2-bedroom condominium in a beautiful Surrey concrete high-rise that is completing this month. They paid $750,000 for the unit. However, when selling it and considering the 5% assignment fee due to the developer coming in at $37,500, the real estate fees to sell it, including the lawyer, coming in at about $20,000, give or take, the addition of GST that is really passed on to the buyer of $37,500, miscellaneous costs of $5,000, and you might have thought I was done there, but I'm not, because don't forget the market from peak to today is still down about 5.5%. 5.5% comes in at $41,250. This means that $750,000 purchase will have about $141,250 removed from its original pricing, leaving the person that bought it with $608,750. If you're paying attention at home, that is a massive, massive, massive loss. So this really begs a question, and something I'd love for you to comment on. You know, with the spotlight by the provincial government, by the federal government on real estate, on people investing in real estate, and potentially taking those units away from people who could have bought them and effectively driving up prices, is it still a good idea to buy pre-sale real estate in British Columbia to make a profit? Is it a smart move to do so? And will it continue to be a smart move into the future? While you're leaving your comment below, I want to wrap up my story a little bit about the person that called me this week wanting to assign their unit, who had very similar circumstances to exactly what we're describing in this video. So the property that they purchased, well, it completes 2 months from now. So they've got about 2 months to sell it. But part of the developer's stipulations within the contract is we are also not able to use the best and biggest tool in the world for selling a home, which is on realtor.ca and the use of the multiple listing service. This means this person is under an immense shot clock to sell the property and can't use the #1 tool where the majority of people go to look for real estate to sell their property. And the worst part is, and naturally, they don't want to take a loss. As you can imagine, for this unfortunate person that bought, that needs to sell, well, that's not a great investment of my time. I can't sell it for what you bought it for at the absolute peak. Plus, when you consider all the fees that have to be taken off, there's just no room, at least right now, for any profits other than just a loss. So what can we learn from this experience? What can we learn from the crazy real estate market of COVID, 2021, 2022, the massive increases in interest rates by the Bank of Canada? There's got to be a takeaway for you so you never get stuck in this situation. Well, number one, I want you to check out this video right here, which I will link in the description below, all about why we no longer recommend new construction properties to any of our clients who are looking to buy. And I'm not going to get into the details in this particular video of what's contained in that, but you definitely want to watch that because it's going to help you learn a ton and avoid a lot of heartache by avoiding pre-construction. The next piece of that is I want you to reconsider real estate as an investment. Now, buying a home as your primary residence, I still think that's the #1 way to grow your wealth. But when it comes to playing with new construction or just generally getting into the real estate space as an investment, does it really make sense like it might have 10 years ago? Before I answer that question, I want to let you know how you can get access to over $350 worth of value for a very limited time through our BC Home Buyers course, with over 3 hours of video content, PDF downloads, and questionnaires to help you be a better home buyer in the province of British Columbia, whether you're buying in Surrey or anywhere in the area. We are giving away just 20 free subscriptions because we want to get more people in the program for our beta testing before we release it to the public. So get yours today before they're all gone. So speaking about real estate as an investment, what I want to leave you with is this. Don't buy real estate directly from the developer. They don't work for you. They have teams of lawyers writing contracts in their favor, and there is a ton of things baked into those contracts that can absolutely sting you, which you will learn all about in the video that I mentioned earlier. If you do decide to buy new construction, you should immediately get a rate hold from a financial institution that is going to allow you to carry that rate hold all the way until the time of the projected completion of the project, because without having that, you will succumb to the interest rates of the day, and heaven forbid that they are considerably higher than where they are today. Don't over leverage yourself when it comes to buying real estate. Be very, very gentle if you decide to use it as an investment. Always, always, always use a real real estate professional to help guide you through the process. Anyone can put you into any of these contracts, but you want to find a real estate professional who specializes in pre-construction so you can know the ins, the outs, what's common, what's not common, and how to avoid the pitfalls, just like the people and persons I've described in today's video. So is real estate still a good investment? Well, we've talked all about pre-sales in today's video, but you might be thinking, well, maybe one day I want to be a landlord and I want to, the Canadian dream, have an investment property that's going to pay for my retirement. And well, the question about that is that still profitable as well? Well, if you've ever wondered that question, check out this video coming up next, where I go into the exact reasons why we no longer think anybody should be buying property as a landlord. And if you are a landlord, you should probably think about getting out as soon as you can. Check out the video for the full story. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Cheers.